Welcome. My name is Virginia Zuko Silva, and I'm a part of the global GBV IMS technical team. This resource is available both as a podcast and video short. This episode on how to do basic safety planning over the phone is part of a series on GBV case management in the context of COVID-19. For the full series, check out our website, www.gbvims.com. There are many considerations that should be well thought out to determine if you can provide phone-based services and how and when to communicate with survivors, in particular survivors of IPV. If you need guidance on any of those topics, please watch or listen to the other video shorts and podcasts in this series. If you feel safe and able to provide GBV survivors with phone-based support and can do so in a safe, ethical, and confidential manner, we're here today to offer some tips for safety planning over the phone. We want to stress how important and life-saving safety planning is during this pandemic, as movement restrictions and lockdowns mean many survivors of intimate partner violence, or IPV, are confined in their homes with their abusers. Safety planning is particularly relevant in those cases. Today, we're going to focus on phone-based safety planning so we can be as detailed and practical as possible. If you work as a caseworker, you are likely already used to developing a safety plan with survivors, as this is an integral part of developing personalized action plans and can be life-saving for survivors of intimate partner violence. COVID-19 related restrictions and social distancing is forcing survivors across the globe to be confined in their homes and often with their abusers. Reassurance, emotional support, and safety planning might be the only tasks you can accomplish over the phone, but a safety plan can empower a survivor and help her find focus during this unsettling time. If you are speaking to a survivor that you have supported in the past, you have likely already developed a safety plan with her. Now your role is to help her adapt this plan to her current situation, current restrictions, and current context. For example, is she allowed to leave her house? If not, does she interact at a distance with anyone other than her intimate partner? What resources in that plan are still available? Has the violence changed? How do components of her existing plan need to be changed to her new reality? If you are speaking to a survivor for the first time, then prioritize developing a safety plan with her in the limited time that you have with her over the phone. Next, we will review the most important components to guide your conversation with her. Reassure the survivor that she is the expert and her own greatest resource. She is a survivor and has survived to date, so she is already implementing many tactics to mitigate abuse. What are the signals that suggest that the abuser is becoming aggressive? What does she do to mitigate violence before it happens? What does she do to dissipate violence once it is already happening? In cases of IPV in particular, even though the restrictions are newly imposed, she has been living with her abuser and has likely been confined at home with him at times. Those experiences can inform her current situation. Most important, remind her that her role in mitigating violence is for her own safety and in no way indicates that she is responsible for the violence or that she can directly control when her abuser becomes violent. Only the abuser is in control and responsible for his acts of violence. In case of violence, identify an area of the home she can move to where there are no weapons like knives in the kitchen and has an exit such as a door or window. For some survivors, especially those quarantined at home with an abuser during coronavirus, no room may feel safe, so we refer to it as the safest room. The goal is to identify the lowest risk areas with the intention of reducing harm. If no rooms feel safest, then at minimum help her identify rooms to avoid. Again, for example, like the kitchen, which likely contains knives and large pots, or like a small closet that has no escape. It is very important to highlight that even during a complete lockdown, a survivor is allowed to flee from violence. If the survivor has children, help her think through how she communicates urgency or danger with them. Some survivors prefer a physical code signal. For example, the survivor would open her arms and her daughter knew that it meant to come running to her for safety. Others create a verbal code word with their children. That means they should go to the safest room in the home that you have already decided upon. Discuss with her whether her children are old enough or whether she feels safe sharing emergency contacts, names, or phone numbers with her children in case of an emergency. Considerations obviously vary by context and availability, but age and ability of children should always be a factor in this decision. If the violence becomes life-threatening, Children may be able to call the police or alert a neighbor. The level of restrictions vary country to country, and depending on her situation, she may or may not be able to access her current support system and resources. Help her identify her current support system. Does she have a phone to make phone calls? Can she leave the house to go to the grocery store or pharmacy? Does she have a code word or signal to notify a trusted neighbor or family member in case abuse intensifies or becomes life-threatening? What resources does she have access to? Even if her access to her usual support network is interrupted, what are new entry points? Could it be a shopkeeper that she sees regularly? Could she slip a note under a door of a neighbor in case of emergency? Always help her outline a plan in case she decides leaving is the safest option. It is important to weigh benefit, risks, and realities under COVID-19, as leaving an abusive partner is often the most dangerous moment for the survivor. Ensure she has a go bag pre-packed and hidden, ready to go for a sudden exit, as well as plan on where to go, who to notify, if anyone, and finally a plan for her children if she has any. As we know, writing things down can increase safety risks for the survivor, so talk the plan over with her so she memorizes key components. Remind her to review her plan, even if in her head, during moments of panic or feeling helpless and alone, to help find calmness and focus. To recap what we discussed today, safety planning is an important component of GBV case management, and you can still do it over the phone. It may look different, but there are still active and empowering steps a survivor can take to help her focus on mitigating violence, identifying the safest room or space in her home, identifying support even if it is more limited and restricted, having a plan with her children, and having a plan in case she decides to leave. And finally, always remind her that she is the expert of her situation and she is not alone, even if isolated. Thank you for listening to us today. To find out more about the series on GBV case management in the context of COVID-19, check out our website at gbvims.com. And as always, be responsible with your data.